The internet's come a long way, but it's always been a way for people with similar interests to connect and to entertain each other. Before there was the prevalence of meme culture, before there was even a website called YouTube, one of the most popular websites for hosting user-generated content was Newgrounds. Created in 1995, this website focused on a way for people to host videos, films, audios, artwork, and even rudimentary video games. However, web speeds, downloads and uploads were not what they are today. MP4 and other video formats as we know of them today were just too large to be transferred at the time. One of the most bandwidth efficient ways of providing animated footage was using what's called a flash animation, a system that provides simple drawings, artwork or shapes, and it makes them move, stretch or transform as programmed by the creator. From the very early 2000s, Newgrounds became awash with user-generated content, and one of the early breakout stars of this flash website was Legendary Frog, aka Joseph Blanchette. I came across Legendary Frog in 2002, not long after he posted his breakout video, FF Tribute, a movie using the Chocobo Robo Voice remix taken with permission from Joe Redifer of the website OC Remix, as a parody of the Boko's theme from Final Fantasy V, the video game. Final Fantasy X came out in Europe in May of that year, almost a full year after its Japanese release and 6 months after its North American launch, and my friends were raving about the game. I knew next to nothing about this franchise at the time, but this video intrigued me. It was self-deprecating. Joe Redifer's original lyrics gently mock the self-entitled nerd culture that had built up around the franchise, but Legendary Frog's animation provided a fascinating insight into the series, featuring nearly 60 characters from the franchise, in all of them having their own humorous little animations. Who were these people? Did this man really drink himself to death just then? Why is this little green dude so lethal? Who are all these dancing men? Why is that woman beating the white-haired dude over the head at the end of the video? I don't think I can point at the Final Fantasy tribute video as the single reason that I bought Final Fantasy X, but it was definitely a contributing factor in the way that it introduced me to the franchise and made me curious to find out more about it. But whilst this cute animated short was Legendary Frog's most famous piece, his real passion was the creation of animated original, fully voiced short sketches or parodies. In 2002, mobile phones were still, if not a rarity, damn expensive and severely limited in their functionality. Most computers had Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint and Paint, and games like Minesweeper and Solitaire. So the ability of the average PC user to record and animate a video was incredibly limited compared to what we have now. Legendary Frog's videos were by no means unique, but the quality of the artwork, for the time, the animation, the voice acting, laughably tragic by today's standards, but mind-blowing for user-generated content back in 2002. There were skits on Lord of the Rings, Resident Evil, Legend of Zelda, all gaming or movie franchises with massive fan bases at the time. And then, over the next 3 years, The Matrix, Final Fantasy VII, Halo, and World of Warcraft, and an original character called Kerrigan. And though their view count was usually smaller than that initial tribute video, these skits were reasonably well written, well produced, and they showed a spark of talent quite special for a schoolboy doodling in his spare time. Legendary Frog came back to his original video, One Ring to Rule Them All, several times and turned this one-note parody character of Sauron into something quite special. Legendary Frog was a sparking ground for grand collaborations, coordinating the animated movie The Matrix Has You 1 year after the infamous Wachowski trilogy ended with 5 other animators. The works were also largely child-friendly. The humour was definitely very dated by today's standards, but considered largely inoffensive at the time. It wasn't trying to be edgy, but gently mocking these games and movies from a place of love. This was the early 2000s. Grim and edgy was the norm, with many people online going out of their way to be purposely offensive. Probably many people themselves were corrupted as children when they found the website Newgrounds thanks to content like Legendary Frogs, which was child-friendly and brought them in. And then afterwards, when they went exploring about what else Newgrounds had to offer, and saw what was stored on the website, there was no going back. Even as basic as they were, most people's internet speed at the time could take quite a few seconds to load the content, sometimes up to a minute for the larger videos, meaning it was worth Legendary Frog's time to create small prologues to the video to keep people interested as the video loaded. At first this was a small joke or a piece of dialogue between characters, but as his skills in producing content progressed, this eventually evolved into small mini-games, challenges that people could compete, which would unlock extra content such as a hidden extra scene or other secrets. Again, though they're basic compared to today's technology, you could do a lot of things with Flash that just aren't possible with a straightforward video file. Rewatching these videos, the pacing is definitely slow, and the animation, yes, it's basic, but until he was overtaken by other, larger creators such as Egoraptor, Legendary Frog was a channel that I came back to check for new content every other month until his releases started drying up in 2005. There was no monetization on Newgrounds. Joseph Blanchette was creating these in his spare time and uploading them for passion, to share with the community. And almost exactly as the Legendary Frog series was slowing down, another website on the far side of the internet, Jared Calm uploaded a video called Me at the Zoo to an obscure startup website called YouTube. From that moment on, the die was cast. What's interesting and was unknown to me at the time is there was kickback from other Newgrounds users against Legendary Frog's style of videos. By referencing video games and movies and popular culture items, he attracted a passionate audience who upvoted his videos, and what admittedly are bland and visually basic content that recycled jokes from movies and comics got promoted more than a lot of other stuff that's considered by some people more worthy. A wave of further parody videos riffing on the basic animation of Blanchette's content with deliberately low effort followed. With no YouTube, no Twitter, no Facebook or any other social media as we know of it today, comments about this content were shared on messenger sites, small private group conversations with people geeking out about the latest video. And looking back decades later, whilst it's clear just how far we've come from when Newgrounds was in its heyday, it strikes me that Legendary Frog's content and the stuff around it is incredibly important for the developing gamer culture online of the day. It set a trend of people sharing homemade content, building communities, and starting conversations about our shared passions. Bigger names would follow afterwards, some of which were able to fully monetize and build careers out of their content. And once YouTube had established itself as a model, the way forwards became clear. But I'll always remember quite fondly the story of Legendary Frog and the one ring to rule them all.